Coley Gaffney, the blogger at Coley Cooks, joins me to talk about her journey going through some mental health struggles and being a blogger alongside that and how tricky it can be. She talks about some really tangible strategies that help her get through tough times when she's experiencing them, including journaling. It's been a very powerful tool for her. She also has said goodbye to social media for a while, and that has really helped her. And we finish off our discussion by talking about blogging just being a long game, which we all already know, but we get into the details on that and how to keep going when it feels impossible to keep going, especially during times like 2025 when things feel so out of control. This is an amazing, vulnerable, authentic episode, and I just know you're going to get so much out of it. It is episode number 680. Enjoy. Let's talk a little bit about your blog, Coley Cooks. Give us the scoop on that, when you started, what your niche is, anything you want to mention.
Yeah, so I started my blog in 2013, around the time I was working as a personal chef, and I started it just as a hobby, just like so many of us in this industry have. I really just wanted an outlet to talk about food and the things that I was cooking at home that was kind of different from what I was doing in my professional life. And I've done many different things in the food industry since then. I've taken lots of time to work on my blog and try to make it profitable and work. And then other times where it was totally on the back burner and not something I was focusing on at all. Fast forward to today where it's my full-time job. So Coley Cooks is a recipe website, of course, and I focus mostly on Italian cuisine and seafood, which is something I decided to niche down to within the past few years. So I still have quite a bit of other content, which I know a lot of people can also relate to.
Yep, a lot of us. I think there are few who can't relate to that, only a few.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And then I know that you've experienced some mental health struggles, and I can say for myself that having mental health struggles and running a blogging business can be extremely challenging. So that's kind of what we're going to dive into today. So do you want to share about whatever you're comfortable sharing regarding your mental health struggles and how maybe that has tied into your blogging business?
Yeah, sure. So I was really hesitant to reach out to you to even talk about this topic in the first place. And when you responded to me with this enthusiasm of like, yeah, let's do it, I kind of just cringed and was like, oh no, I don't actually want to. Because it's something that I've dealt with for my entire life, but I've always carried some shame about, which I think is really normal. And anytime I hear someone else speak about their mental health struggles, I'm all ears, and anything that they say always makes me feel comforted knowing that I'm not alone in this. It's totally normal. So many other people struggle with this. And I thought, you know what? So many other people have helped me with my own journey. I think it's my turn to finally step forward and share my struggles and my experiences, and hope that even if one person hears this and even if they take nothing else away from it other than feeling like I'm not alone or it's not just me or like Coley struggles too, then my work is considered a success here. So,
Well,
this is
thank you
kind
for
of
stepping up, because
yeah, thanks.
I know your email back was like, oh, okay, I didn't really want to do this, but maybe this is my sign to actually push through and do it. And I know there are people who are struggling with a variety of mental health issues right now, people listening right now. So this is helping. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, well, I just want to say to everyone listening, like, I see you, I feel you, and I get it. And I think I've always presented myself, I know I present myself as a very bubbly, outgoing, happy person. And that is very much a side of me that's not fake. But I have a dark side, and I have a lot of times in my life that have been really heavy and really dark, and I've been through a lot of difficult things. And even today, like I feel really good today. I'm in like I'm in a very stable point in my life right now, but it ebbs and flows. And I've made a ton of progress in my mental health struggles over the last few years. But progress, as you know, is not linear, and it kind of looks like a zigzag path, much like our blog traffic right
Yes,
now.
yes.
Um, so I think that just doing anything that you can to become a little bit more self-aware, and really take a look at the reasons why you think you're struggling with these issues, and really just observing yourself and your patterns can be really, really helpful, in navigating that. So yeah, I guess like I'll say this, that I grew up, I didn't have a difficult childhood, so to speak. You know, we all come into this world with our own levels of trauma and experiences. And, you know, the word trauma is so overused today, but I think that no matter what your life was like growing up, there were definitely some experiences, negative experiences you had that have shaped your worldview and your, you know, just the things that you struggle with today, because everybody's struggling with something. I mean, that's the reality. When you look at anyone, no matter how great they appear on the outside, they're struggling with something on the inside. I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
And for me, I was raised with two wonderful parents, but I also was the youngest of three children, and both of my older siblings, for lack of a better word, have special needs. So I grew up being the quote unquote normal child, and always feeling like I didn't want to be a burden on my parents because I saw what they were dealing with my siblings. And I always internalized that and took it upon myself to never express my needs or my issues, or always just kind of burying things and
Mhm.
pushing things down and pretending like everything was fine. And it really wasn't until I was in my early to mid 30s that I realized this isn't working anymore and everything is not fine, and really acknowledging some of the things that I went through and ignored and tried to just pretend they didn't happen, and really address them head on and make changes in my life and really get serious about this. I think in our adult lives, it happens to everybody at some point, some younger, some older, but you reach a point in your life where you realize that nobody's coming to rescue you, and that if you have a problem or something you're struggling with, it is on you to address it and fix it. And that's a really hard realization to come to, but it also can be really empowering when you realize that you are ultimately in control of your own life, and happiness really is an inside job. That's something we hear all the time and different iterations of that, but it really is so true that you can change all of these external factors. It won't do a thing if you're not working on yourself and what's in here. And it's difficult. It's not easy work. Um, but it's one of the most helpful and profound things that I think a person can do in their life.
Wow. Oh gosh, that was all like I had to fight back tears a few times.
Oh,
Um, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And isn't it funny how, because we have a younger son too. Our older son has special needs, and oh gosh, I worry about him. I actually worry more about our younger son because he goes through, I know he shoves things down, and we try to get stuff out of him, like, come on, you got to talk, and he just will not. So, and that's something that you just can't prepare for in your life, you know? Like, you don't anticipate going into your adulthood and, like, oh, I shoved things down because my older sibling got the most of the attention. You know, like and like you said earlier, we all have those things, but they present differently. All of our experiences and childhoods are different. So, on some level, I think we're all on the same page. We're all dealing with something that rises to the surface eventually as an adult, and we're having to get through it. And it's like you said, it's on us, it's on you, it's on me. So, good for you. So, once you kind of realized, okay, I need to work on this, how did things go after that?
yeah. So I'll say like the two main things I struggle with personally are anxiety and depression. And the anxiety got to a point for me where I was having like, regular panic attacks. I couldn't get them under control. And that's when I really knew that like I needed to do something to really make a change. Like this was something I could not continue with anymore. It was literally unbearable. And anyone who's ever gone through that, like, you get it. Um, so it's been a journey, trying different things. I think there's a lot of conventional wisdom out there that anyone who's struggled with these things and tried to get help is used to hearing. Just the, hey, go to therapy, exercise more.
Yeah.
All of these things that in practice are actually much more difficult than, than they seem when someone gives that advice. Like for exercise, I feel like the people who are always saying, just go exercise and you won't be depressed anymore, have like never been
I
depressed.
know.
So,
Right.
and exercise is something that is a really important part of my life. It's something I commit to on a regular basis. But when I'm feeling really low and depressed, it is quite literally one of the most difficult things to get up and
Yeah.
do. Um, Similarly with therapy, I've not had luck with therapy, and I think that it can be such a powerful and helpful tool for the right person and for the right connection with a therapist and circumstances. But there are so many difficult things about finding a therapist and getting to therapy and developing that relationship that people don't talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, there's the insurance issue and the location and the appointments and timing and finding a person you feel compatible with and is actually qualified to help your specific needs, and having to go through your whole personal history and things that are affecting you with a therapist only to realize this isn't working out and have to start over with someone new. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I think if it can for you, that's wonderful. What has worked for me is a combination of self-help content, we'll say, because books, podcasts, social media accounts, newsletters, all of those things combined with a really strong journaling practice.
Mm.
Journaling has hands down changed my life. And I think a lot of these self-help books and all of this content, it's great in theory to read it and we think about it and okay, that's great, that's nice. But you really have to put it into practice and you really have to consciously make an effort to work on these things day in and day out and think about it, or else it's not really going to be impactful at all. And for me, journaling has really been a way to put those things into practice. And I try to journal every single morning. I do it on my computer. I do it just in a notes app. I'm trying to actually find a better system for this, but right now it's just in the Apple Notes app. If you want to write by hand, I think that's great too. I think over the years, my handwriting muscles have pretty much atrophied. So that's really difficult for me. I'm a really fast typist. So that's just what works for me. But I just brain dump. I just go into my journal every morning and I just dump everything that I'm thinking about. And I find that so much more powerful than speaking to somebody, because you're able to address things right then and there in the moment when you're thinking about them, versus if maybe you have therapy next week at 4 o'clock, but you're thinking about things right now
Right.
and you need to get things off of your chest right now. Also versus speaking to maybe a friend or a close person, like that can get a little tricky too, because you might not want to overshare with certain people. And maybe it's a conflict you're having with another friend or a family member, and you don't want to talk about them with someone else. Your journal is your safe space to be able to go there and just speak about anything, however you want. Even the things that we feel inside, like we all feel like icky things that you think about a situation or a person or something, where you're like, you don't really want to say that out loud, but
Yeah.
you're thinking it and you're feeling it, and it's okay to put it
It's
down on
valid.
paper.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
valid. And being able to just get it off of your chest and write it down somewhere is so, so, so powerful. And one thing that's also really been helpful for me is I save all of my journals and I go back in and I read them. When I'm having a really down time, I will actually go back a couple years and kind of find the same time of year and go back and read my old journals. And what you read is so crazy, because you'll notice two things, right? You'll notice things in your life, like things that you were praying for and hoping for that have come
Mm.
true, and things that you wanted so badly just a few years ago, you realize you actually have in your life now. And reading about just how you felt about them in that moment at that time makes you feel so grateful in that moment that you're not there anymore. You're here now. And it just kind of reminds you of how far you actually have come, because it's so easy to forget. But on the other side of that, it tells you the things that you are still struggling with. So
Mm.
maybe you're having, issues with a friend or a family member that, you didn't realize have actually been going on for that long. And it can kind of prompt you to make some changes because you're like, wow, this was a problem 4 years ago and it's
Yeah.
still something we're dealing
Yeah.
with today. Like something's got to change. So, yeah, it's been really powerful for me for those two reasons. And I have some different prompts that I use sometimes too, if I'm not
Oh, I would love
really.
to learn what those are. Do you have kind of a standard set of prompts that you use, or does it depend on the day and what you're feeling, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, I kind of have a standard set of prompts, but I don't always fill them all out. It depends on my day and it depends on what I happen to be dealing with on that particular occasion. So I have them written down. I'll rattle them off to you.
Oh, I'd love to hear
Um,
them.
yeah, great one. Everyone should be journaling at minimum, just things they're grateful for. It's so powerful. And
Absolutely.
I try to vary them, right? It's easy to just be like, oh, my family, my home,
Yeah.
whatever. Try to get really granular and think about things that are really specific and vary them every single day. So you're always trying to think of different things. That's a big one. Then I try to journal about what will I focus on today. Big one is what will I let go of today?
Ooh,
That
that's a
one's been,
biggie.
yeah, that one's been really helpful. What do I want to manifest today? How can this be easy? Daily affirmation. So I am blank. And then the best case scenario for today. So,
Hmm.
especially when things just aren't feeling great, it's nice to go on and journal about like what would today look like if it was just the greatest day ever and
Hmm.
everything went my way. So,
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Those are amazing prompts. And you said you do this absolutely every day. Is there ever a day that you miss? And if so, how do you feel when you miss?
yeah, I mean, I give myself a break on the weekends, and or if a day is just particularly busy, and sometimes I don't get to it. I'm at a place now where I've been doing it for so long that I do give myself grace with it, and
Yeah.
that's something in general when you're not feeling great or just running a business is
Yes.
so hard. Like, give yourself grace. I'm sure other people can relate to this, but like when I'm feeling low, when I'm struggling with my mental health, like the self-loathing comes on
Oh,
so hard and just giving yourself grace in those moments. Just be like, it's okay if you didn't
yeah.
get these things done. It's fine. Like just give yourself a break. Be easy on yourself. Be gentle with yourself. Like talk to yourself like you're the younger version of yourself or like you're a child. And it sounds silly at first, but sometimes that's what we really need. You just need to be a
Yeah.
bit gentler.
Yeah. Be more kind to ourselves for sure.
Hmm.
Everyone's so incredibly rude to themselves, myself
Yes.
included. I'm terrible.
Oh,
I catch myself saying some things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I would not say that to anyone in the world, but I will say it to myself. It's
exactly. It's
just
so true.
crazy. Yeah. Okay, so journaling helps you a ton, and then you said you exercise regularly. I want to ask you about how this applies to blogging because, as you all know, blogging is no joke. It's kind of a lot. But first, I want to see if there's anything else you do semi regularly to kind of help you through, just kind of stay proactive, I guess, with staying on top of issues.
Those are kind of the regular things that I do. I think having some kind of a framework for viewing life, whether that's through religion, some kind of spirituality, that hasn't always really worked for me personally. But I've been really drawn to philosophy, particularly Stoic philosophy has really become a pretty profound part of my life in the last few years. It just gives me a really
That's so cool.
a clear lens for viewing the world and things that happen around me. And, the basis of it is kind of just focus on things that you can control.
Yeah,
And it's so much harder to put into practice than it sounds. Like they make these things sound really simple. It's not.
yeah.
But it's something I always just try to come back to and remember that like you can really only worry about the things that are within your control.
And you can
Um,
add those to your affirmations, right? In your journaling.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And the other thing I want to say is I'm not here to give out medical advice at all, but see a doctor. If you really are struggling, you really should see a doctor and just talk about what's going on. Explore possibly getting on medication. For me personally, I avoided that for such a long time because I just thought I could do it on my own and I was going to be fine and I didn't need any of that. Um, I finally caved and went to the doctor and explored that, and it was life changing for me.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was like I was wearing a pair of fogged up glasses, and then when I went on medication, it's like someone took a cleaner and just cleared off the lenses, and I was suddenly able to see the world in a clearer light, where before it just had this like pessimistic fog over it, where I had this
Hmm.
negative view of everything. And this just sort of lifted that for me. And it's been really, really helpful. And I kind of kick myself for having suffered for so long just because I had this feeling of I don't need it and I'm better than that. And the reality is I'm not, and that's fine.
Yeah,
um,
we're all different. And that actually kind of helps me to see things from another perspective too. So if it's not you, but maybe somebody else has a more negative lens on the world consistently and it's driving you crazy, consider that they might be having some mental health struggles. So grace for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many different avenues to explore with medication. It's not just SSRIs. There's so many different things you can do. And also, like, get testing, like, get your hormones checked. Like,
Mm,
this could be coming from different things. So it's just important to actually speak with a medical professional about some different things that you can be doing to possibly help yourself.
yes, love that disclaimer. Okay, let's get real now with blogging because blogging on its own is no joke. Mental health issues are no joke. Put them together and it can be a little bit of a tricky situation. So yeah, like how has that gone for you? Have you I'll just ask I'll leave it at that. How has that gone for you, Coley?
It's hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard when you are not feeling like your best self. It is really, really hard to motivate yourself to do this work because there's no boss. There's nobody telling you you have to do this. It's on you. It's 100% on you to show up and do the work. And it's a lot of work, as we all know. Um, One tactic that I've kind of developed or used when I'm in this state, so when I sit at my computer and I just have this mile long to-do list, I get paralyzed and I just kind of stare into space and I don't know where to start and I'll just do anything I can to procrastinate. One thing I started to do, and I can't remember where I heard this advice, if it was maybe Brene Brown or Mel Robbins, it was a long time ago, but is to practice making promises to yourself. And this doesn't just apply to blogging, it can apply to really anything that you want to do, but it what it does is it kind of builds a confidence and a trust in yourself that can kind of put that forward motion into gear. So an example would be if a friend says they're going to pick you up at the airport and then they don't show up and they're like, well, I just was tired, I didn't feel like it. Like, you've completely lost trust in that friend
Yeah.
and you're never going to ask them to pick you up at the airport or do anything ever again. And the same thing happens to yourself. So when you say, I'm going to do these 5 things, and then you don't do those 5 things, you feel really bad about yourself
Hmm.
and you start to erode that trust. And I don't think we really think about it that way, but it's so true. So I know when days go by and my to-do list just continues to get longer and longer, and I'm not accomplishing the things that I set out to in the morning, it makes me feel really bad about myself. And it just makes this worse. And it makes it harder and harder and harder to get started. So what I do is I start by making really, really, really tiny promises to myself. And then over time, those things will kind of build and it kind of boosts your confidence and makes you feel a little bit better about yourself because you actually did what you said you were going to do. And it just puts that in motion, and like a body in motion stays in motion. So I feel like once I get going, then I kind of get my mojo back, and then I can and kind of like just propel myself into a better state of mind and a better workflow. So an example would be like start with like the tiniest, tiniest, tiniest thing you can think of. So if it's like just edit one photo or
Yeah.
like
I was actually
truly
going to
like,
say that. Edit a photo. That's funny.
yeah, or like just respond to an email or answer a comment, like just one tiny, tiny, tiny thing, like make it the easiest thing possible and just set it at that. Like just say, I'm going to do this one thing and accomplish that one thing. And then just build on that as time goes. It's the same thing like with exercise, just say, I'm going to go stretch for 5 minutes. That's
Yeah.
it. And just start to build that habit. Start to kind of make a positive connection in your brain that by doing this task, it made me feel good. It gives you that little hit of dopamine or serotonin. I don't know what it is, but it does something to your brain that makes you feel good about the fact that you just kept a promise to yourself. And over time, by doing those small little things, it builds up this trust and this confidence within yourself that makes you want to keep doing it more. And that's something that's really worked for me to just kind of just get started. And then once I'm in the flow, then I'm in the flow and things are great. But
Right.
getting there is so hard sometimes.
It is. I know. And what you talked about earlier, that grace plays a huge role with this as well, because if you can't have that patience and grace while you're building it back up, then spiral, right? I mean, I've been
Exactly.
there. I've spiraled out of control before. And then I feel like I can't do anything. Like I can't even start. It's
Exactly.
way too monumental to even start.
Exactly. So just
Yeah.
start really, really small. I know you're also a big fan of James Clear and Atomic
Oh
Habits.
gosh, love
That's
it.
a great book to read. And I love to throw on like an audiobook or a podcast, yours included. Those mindset and self-care episodes are so
Yay.
helpful.
Oh,
Just
good.
throw something like that on and go about my day and do whatever I need to do. But just kind of having those positive words of affirmation and just um, positive thoughts, and you just have such a calm, lovely voice and way about you, Megan. Like
Oh,
seriously, you've helped me so much, so just know that I know you're helping so many other people too. But
oh, thank you.
yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that because sometimes I do feel like I'm kind of speaking into the void with those. I get feedback, but not a ton. So it's nice to hear. And those, by the way, creating those mindset episodes have been therapy for me. That's been my therapy this year. So journaling for you, but for me, it's kind of journaling too because
Yeah.
I write a huge outline, and it's almost always based on what I'm going through. I don't know if I say that sometimes in the episodes, but when you listen to a mindset episode, Megan has gone through that recently. So you know exactly how my year's going.
No, I think it's definitely clear because you wouldn't be able to say those things if they weren't coming
Yeah.
from some place deep within you in a personal experience. And I think that's what makes them so powerful is that I do know that you're going through something similar and your vulnerability has really been just so meaningful to be able to hear those things. It's I can't
Oh,
say enough good stuff, really.
that's so awesome. Thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. And I want to touch on social media because I know for people who tend to struggle with anxiety and depression, social media can be one of
Yeah.
those things that just doesn't fit in. It doesn't feel good. I know that
Hmm.
there are people who can make it feel good. And for those people, like you're awesome. But I've been at a place where it's like, I can't even look at what people are doing. I don't want to go on social media. I hate it at
Hate
times.
it.
Yeah. So tell me about your journey with social media.
Yeah. So this is a whole other can of worms, but in 2014, I went on a reality TV show called The Next Food Network Star. And that just totally blew up my social media in a way that was really crazy, especially on a local level. I just had so many people knowing who I was and stopping me at the grocery store. And
Whoa.
yeah, it was a wild experience. I can come back on and talk about that
Ooh, yeah.
another time. But it just kind of changed my relationship with social media overnight and just made it a much stranger place to be on. And over the course of many years, I was trying so hard to make it work for my blog, to get traffic, to grow my presence and my followers and everything. And I was just getting nowhere. And I was still working part-time. I had another business. I was doing all kinds of other things. And I had such limited time and resources to put into blogging that I decided, you know what if I just don't do this at all and focus on other things and see what happens. So I have put all of my eggs essentially into the SEO basket, which now during this current update, I'm finding out maybe, isn't the best tactic. And I'm not saying it is, but I think I abandoned social media pretty much. Like I looked back at my last Instagram post. I posted a couple things like when I went on vacation this summer. But my last like blog related post was from 2021.
Oh,
So it was
wow. Yeah, it's been a
many,
while.
many years ago. And my blog has just continued to climb. Um,
That's awesome.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. Oh, and
Um,
it will. It will.
yeah. And it gave me permission to focus on something else rather than social media, because day in and day out, I'm showing up to engage with other people and to post my content. And at the same time, you're being bombarded with politics and people that
Yeah.
you know and family drama and just like all of these other things. It gets so overwhelming. And for me, it gave me so much anxiety. And when things started to really heat up politically and there was lots of tension going on in our country, I don't like to speak about these things publicly, but I started to feel like I needed to. And I felt this real push pull of what was the right thing to do. Like I'm bad if I'm silent, but I'm bad if I
Yeah.
speak up. And I just hated that. And I decided to step away, and it's been really positive for me for my mental health. And it hasn't really hurt my blog too much. I'm at a point now where I keep saying, I got to get back in. I got to get back in. I need to start diversifying my traffic
Yeah.
and all of these things. But every time I say I'm going to dip my toe back into the water, I just hear someone wanting to abandon it altogether because it's just not working and the algorithm changed again. And there's all of these different issues and problems, and TikTok's going
Right.
away, or just there's always something crazy
I
happening with
know.
social media. And I'm like, is it even worth it to try? I don't know. But I'm just putting this out there to tell people. I think there's so many people who are like, I'm doing it. I hate it. I don't want to do it. It's not working for me. This is kind of me just giving you permission to just try not engaging with it anymore and just seeing how it works out, especially
Yeah.
if you've been blogging for a long time and you have had a long social media presence. I think it's okay to step away for a little bit because, Google, the internet, like people still know you exist. You still have a social media presence, even if you're not posting every day. And on the contrary, if you love it and it brings you a lot of joy and you love engaging with your community and making reels and all of that, like awesome. I wish I was like that,
I
but
know. Yeah.
it's not for everybody. And, personally, I don't know what's going to happen with it long term. I just think it's going in a weird direction right now. And I'm very curious to see where we're at in another 5 to 10 years with social media.
For sure. Yeah, it's so up in the air with that whole TikTok debacle. It was like, wait, it's being thrown into outer space. Wait, no, it's not. Wait, I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, I don't even want to keep up with this. I'm not
I
even on
know.
TikTok, and I'm like, no, I don't want to hear about it anymore.
Yeah. And I feel so bad for the creators who
I
have built these
know. Oh my
massive
gosh,
platforms
devastating.
just to have it
Absolutely.
taken away in a heartbeat. My gosh. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we own our websites, we own our email lists. So we owe it to ourselves to invest as much of ourselves into that as we can. That's at least my
Yeah.
opinion. Different things work for different people. That's what has worked for me. But social media, it just scares me. But I think if it's not working for you and you feel like it's stressing you out more than anything else, just like try to step away and see how that makes you feel and what
Yeah.
happens as a result. It's worth experimenting.
Even just a week. I mean,
Yeah,
just try a week. Nothing is going to happen in a week or 2 weeks.
absolutely not. And
Nothing.
another thing, like you don't need to hop back on. Like you don't need to make some grand announcement that you're leaving, and you don't need to hop back on and be like,
Right.
I'm back. Literally nobody cares. Like no one's paying
I
attention.
know.
They didn't even know you were gone. Like I promise everybody's so wrapped up in their own world and their own feed and who's getting shown what posts anyway. I mean, trust me, barely anyone will notice that you went anywhere.
Yeah,
So
it's so true. I have talked a little bit about this before, but I took a break from my blog, my whole business last summer after Flavor Media actually just experienced a little bit of burnout. Um, that was early May. I didn't touch my blog from the end of April or anything Like literally, I didn't touch anything in my business from the end of April to the end of July. And you would think that you'd come back and like something would have exploded or like, I don't know, disastrous things would have happened. But guess what? It was all intact. Everything was fine. My traffic actually went up a little bit. All of these kind of weird surprises happened. I
That's
did keep up with.
amazing.
I know I kept up with my emails, and I posted on social media for eBlog Talk just the episodes. But yeah, you can actually step away. It's a thing. You are allowed to do that as much as
It's
you
so
want to.
true.
Yeah,
And that is the beauty of this business. Like that is arguably the coolest thing about running a food
I
blog
know.
is that you can step away and it will most likely be totally fine. And that's there's not many other businesses that you can say that
Right.
about. It's
Just not
really
show up at work for 2 months. Be
yes,
like,
and
I want my
still
job.
right, and still make income, still get a
Yeah,
paycheck. Like that's crazy. Like that is so cool. And I do have to pinch myself sometimes and remember that. We're really
it's such a
lucky to be doing
blessing.
this. It really is. Yeah, and I'm grateful for it every day. Even through all of the ups and downs, I always have to remind myself that you're really lucky
Yeah,
to show up and get to do what you do every day.
for sure. That's going in the gratitude journal tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the just blogging being such a long game. I say this all the time. People come in and I witness, like I've been here for 2 years and I'm just not making traction. And I'm like, no, 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 no. This is a long, long, long game. You come in knowing that, and especially if you have mental health struggles that you deal with, it feels longer than long. So just having that awareness, and I know that you're aligned with this too, Coley. So talk about that, just the long game of it.
Yeah, I mean, I started taking my blog pretty seriously after I was on Food Network Star in about 2015 or so. I started making YouTube videos. I was posting really regularly, and I was just not getting the traction. Like I was so heavily invested in pumping out content, but I didn't know what I was doing with marketing or SEO or Pinterest or anything. And it just wasn't getting anywhere. And as a result, like I wound up doing different things. And like you said, you put your blog like totally on the back burner for months and months and months at a time. I did it for years and it didn't implode. I opened up a smoothie shop and ran that for a little while. I wrote
Wow.
a cookbook about smoothie bowls, which that's a whole other story. I worked on QVC selling different products for a little while and just had my hand in all of these different little pots. And they were bringing in income. My blog really wasn't. I went through different phases where I was like heavily involved with sponsorships and doing sponsored content. And that's where I was making most of my income. Um, but over time, I believed in it and I knew that it was something that could eventually work. And I owed it to myself to kind of just try. And little by little, I just chipped away at little things. I educated myself. I learned. I had some audits done. I worked with a couple different experts and just invested as much as I could into it. And it paid off. And in the end of 2023, I finally felt comfortable with my ad income enough to quit everything else that I was doing at that time and do this full time. And it's scary. It's really scary to have this be my only thing because for so long I did a million different things. I had all these different income streams. And right now it's like really just ad revenue, which makes me nervous. But I guess this is all just to say that it is a long game. And I spent many, many years not knowing if any of this was going to work out, if it was worth it at all, if it was ever going to happen for me. And maybe it won't. Maybe it won't happen for some people. But I truly believe that if your heart is in it and you're doing it for the right reasons being that you love it, and that you want to make an impact and that you want to teach people and you want to inspire people. The right reason can't necessarily be, I want to make money. I think if you're really
Yeah.
invested in doing this because you love it, like I started this blog as a hobby because I loved it and I wanted to share my recipes with people. I wanted to document my family recipes that were just sort of floating around out there and no one had ever written down. And like all of these different reasons that I wanted to be a food blogger, have a food blog that was separate from the money. I kept doing it because of that. And then eventually it became a real, true, viable business that now I'm treating as such and trying to grow as best as I can. So this is all just to say that if it's not working for you and you're chugging along and just things don't seem to be happening, just go back to remembering your why and think about that and kind of detach a little bit from the money. I know that's really hard when the money's not coming in and it's a lot of work, but if you need to do something on the side, do something on the side or get another job or do whatever you have to do to pay the bills. But if you love doing this, don't give it up. Just keep going. And if you don't have the time to work on it now, you don't need to sell your blog. You don't need to close up shop. Like just keep putting in the minimum to, pay for your hosting or whatever it is, and just hang on to it and see what happens. And it might really surprise you one day.
There's nothing I can even say, Coley. That was so beautifully said. How perfect. And I know this is something that so many people need to hear now during these times when it just feels so volatile and uncertain, not just with social media, but with Google and Pinterest now is shaking around. And it's like, it just feels like we're in a massive earthquake and we don't know when things are going to settle, if they ever will. So now more than ever, this message that you just so beautifully delivered is super important. I say, when Coley started talking about the long game, mark it and go back and listen to that every day if you need to, if you're struggling with just feeling like I want to throw my business into the ocean, because that was so encouraging.
Oh, good. Yeah. And let me just say this, we can close on this. My thoughts about recipe websites specifically in relation to AI, I truly, genuinely believe in my heart that people will always, always, always want to learn recipes and cooking and about food from real people. I do not think this is something that AI can take over. I think maybe if your niche is really specific macros and really heavily diet specific or something, that AI can just spit something out and maybe these people aren't super worried about taste and they're bodybuilders. I don't know. Maybe that could be threatened. But I think when you're making these recipes from your grandmother or from the heart, people are always going to want that. I really, truly believe that AI can never take over this job. So I hope I'm never proven wrong, but that is just what I'm sticking with.
I agree. And I've heard other people say that as well. Even experts are like, the food niche is really hard to hack, I guess, as an AI robot. But that's really comforting to hear you say that. I just want to say thank you for sharing this story. I know it wasn't easy for you, but I know you're going to help so many people by doing so. So thank you, Coley, for showing up.
You're so welcome. And I really, really hope this did help somebody out there.
For sure it will. I know you've already sent us so many words of inspiration, but do you have a favorite quote or words of inspiration to leave us with?
Yeah, I do. So this comes from someone named Young Pueblo. If you're familiar with him, he's a writer. He has several books out. He's a great follow on Instagram. He has a great newsletter that he sends out. His words, his books have been really helpful and meaningful to me. So this quote is from him. They said, "How do you get through tough moments? Do not trust the way that you see yourself when your mind is turbulent, and remember that even pain is temporary. Honor your boundaries, treat yourself gently, let go of perfection, and feel your emotions without letting them control you. You have enough experience to face the storm and evolve."
Wow, another beautiful contribution to this chat. And this is super ironic, but 2 hours ago, I got into the car with my husband and he was listening to a podcast and I saw Young Pueblo pop up on the screen. I've never heard of it before. So when you said that, I was like, what? That's crazy.
Oh, he's so great. Yeah, definitely check him out. Great follow.
Yeah, that's a sign for me to go scope it out. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
We'll put together a show notes page for you, Coley. So if anyone wants to go check that out, we'll have everything we talked about today. You can head to eatblogtalk.com/Coley Cooks. Remind everyone where they can find you, Coley, if they want to go look at your blog.
Yeah, so my blog is Coley Cooks. It's spelled Coley, then Cooks. We can all spell that. My name is just short for Nicole. Some people might know me as Nicole. I used to kind of go by Nicole Gaffney more professionally, but I'm sticking with Coley because that's always been my nickname, and it just feels more like me.
Yeah.
You can email me, coleycooks@gmail.com. That's the best way to reach me. I would love for you to reach out to me if something I said here resonates with you and you're just looking for someone to talk to or want some help. Like, please reach out. I'd be more than happy to just chat and hear from you. And of course, you can reach out on social media too. I don't have the apps on my phone anymore, but I do check on my computer here and there, and like I'm engaged in some of the Facebook groups and things a little bit just to kind of stay on top of stuff, but I'm not on there super heavily. If you want to chat, definitely send me an email.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all of that. And again, thanks for being here. Thank you for listening, food bloggers. I will see you next time.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this topic, be sure to watch the video shown on the screen. See you next time.